Hey, I'm Chris, and this is MMA for You. I'm going to be doing my predictions for UFC Fight Night 91, Lineker versus McDonald, which happens on July 13th. If you're watching this on YouTube, you may notice that I'm using a similar format for this video as I did in UFC 200. Moving forward, I will be using this where it has like some form of graphics and just me talking over it. Moving forward. This video will probably not be as extensive with the pics and whatnot, or the pictures and whatnot. Um, in some videos, I might just have a poster or two, and that's all the graphics I'll have. But I'll stick with this format, and depending on how much time permits, I will, will really depend on how many like pictures I have I put in because the editing takes a long time. Besides that, if you just want to listen to the video, just audio only, I'm now on SoundCloud. So I'm going to starting with UFC 200, I'm going to start putting my MMA videos onto my SoundCloud account. I will have a link to my SoundCloud account um, on the descriptions. So, with that taken care of, I got to make my plug to my author's website, www.chrismordon.com. Um, I am an author specializing in the fantasy genre, and you can buy multiple stories on PDF. You can buy my novel, um, The Mustard Prince and the Convict Kingdom, for $4.99 on my website, or you can buy my short stories and my short story collections. There's a Land of the Wooden Statues, which is like a fancy horror short story that I'm actually trying to make into a novel. The horror collection, it's a compilation of 3 horror stories, and my fantasy fable collection, which is a compilation of 4 like fantasy slash like fable stories. Those ones are the short stories are only $1.99. You can buy all of these also on Amazon.com as well if you have some sort of e-reader. Um, so for example, like a Kindle and whatnot. Okay, with that out of the way, Lineker versus McDonald. Pretty good card. I mean, it's hard to find a truly bad card in the UFC these days. There's some fun fights. Ben Nguyen versus Louis Smolka looks really fun. You got a couple new prospects coming in here too. Eric Spicely, Katlyn, Chookagian. You got 2 women's fights on here. That's pretty cool. Matt Lopez, Devin Clark. So there's definitely gonna have some new talent here. Some of them actually look like pretty good prospects, young prospects too. Devin Clark's only in his like mid 20s, not many fights, hasn't fought for a while. Could turn out to be something. Matt Lopez, he looks like a pretty good prospect, strong wrestler. He was the Reign MMA wrestling coach. Um, so Landon Vannata is actually a good prospect. Unfortunately, he's fighting Tony Ferguson. He has a tough first fight in the UFC though. But yeah, some good fighters on the card too. The main event looks awesome. Lineker versus McDonald, and then you got Ferguson on the card as well. Samman versus Boetsch, Oleinik versus Omielanczuk. So yeah, let's get started. In the main event, we have John Lineker versus Michael Mayday McDonald. So McDonald, 17-3 record, 9 wins by KO or TKO, 6 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by submission. 25 years old, he's 5'8", trading wins and losses. He has some good boxing. He uses combinations really well, and he's particularly heavy-handed too. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are solid as well. I mean, if you remember his fight against Brad Pickett, got that after beating him up on the feet. He got that triangle choke from his back, and then he got that slick submission against Kanahara, getting out the arm triangle from the bottom, taking the back into a rear naked choke. His takedown defense, though, is a bit iffy now that I think about it, because Kanahara was able to take him down. Pickett was able to take him down like once. Burrell was able to take him down. So, I wouldn't say that he has a great takedown defense. I think it's actually that doesn't appear to be that strong. John Lineker, 27-7 record, 12 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by sub. He has 3 losses by submission. 26 years old. He's 5-2 on a 4-fight win streak. And the name of Lineker's game really is his aggression. He is hyper aggressive. He's always pushing forward. Something of a brawler boxer in the stand-up, but he uses combinations well, and he has really strong body punches too. His takedown defense is actually really good because he actually doesn't keep his hands up. So he actually has his hands in the right place if guys try to take him down. And also, him being the shorter fighter, it's hard to get in on his legs. His chin is amazing. I remember Francisco Rivera versus Lineker brawl, which lasted like, I don't know, a minute or two. I mean, he was taking flush hits from Rivera, who's a really heavy-handed guy. Didn't really even move the guy, It's still an interesting matchup. The thing is, McDonald does hit hard. He's gonna be the taller fighter, and it could be interesting to see if McDonald can hit Lineker with some regularity and hit him hard and see how Lineker takes it. However, at this point, it's really hard to see Lineker, unless he gets stopped by like a KO or TKO, or like badly wobbled. I think I've seen him wobbled before, but just like really badly wobbled. And he's actually getting better about like just straight brawling. I think. I gotta go with John Lineker here. I think he has a style of fighting that's really good with the judges, first of all. Okay, the fact that he's always pushing, he doesn't take a step back. He's always pushing forward, and he's always all offense. That's a really good thing to have just for winning rounds. And he's pretty high volume, and he uses combinations well. So, he's going to win rounds just on that fact. I think he's got to, at this point, unless someone really tests it, I can't, I can't say that anyone's going to knock him out or not even knock him down, really, at this point, as his chin has been granite as of late. His takedown defense is good, so I can't really see the fight hit the ground. He actually went for his own takedowns in his last fight against Rob Font. So, yeah. I don't know if we'll see a KO or TKO here, but I like Lineker here to win by, because McDonald's tough. At the very least, he's I've seen him wobbled by Faber. Obviously, there's that one, and that was kind of funny, actually, because I think he like jumped off the cage at one point, or like the side of the fence at one point. But yeah, for the most part, and Lineker's not a one-punch knockout type guy anyways. He's a guy that really wears his opponent down. So, yeah, I think it'll be pretty tough. I can see Lineker with the KO or TKO, but I'll go safe and go John Lineker by decision. Next fight after that, Tony El-Kakui Ferguson fights Landon Vannata. Vannata, 8-0 undefeated record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by sub. He's 5'9", training out of Jackson Winklejohn, and it is his first fight in the UFC. So I saw his last fight, actually. He primarily stands with his opponent. He uses it's a real movement-heavy style fighting. Sometimes he'll have his hands down, or a lot of times, actually, he has his hands down. He's pretty accurate. From what I've read about him too, he has a wrestling base, and I remember the fight. He actually went for a really nice, actually one of those like judo style takedowns. So I mean, he does have a wrestling base, and he does have submissions to his name. But the fights I've seen him, he primarily uses his wrestling in reverse. It looks like to scramble back to his feet and or defend takedowns, and then he uses his movement heavy style for striking from the videos I've seen. Obviously, it's like 2. His last fight and like another one. Tony Ferguson, 20-3 record, 9 wins by KO TKO, 7 wins by sub, 32 years old, 6 foot on a 7-fight win streak. He's an Ultimate Fighter winner, and he's a guy that always pushes forward. He's real unorthodox too. This guy the way he defends takedowns. I mean, he'll use front rolls to get out of takedowns, cartwheels. Real unorthodox type guy. He'll go for that flying guard pull thing, like is it the Imanari? He'll go for Imanari rolls. So real unorthodox guy. Stand up is good. He has a really good left hook. He actually combines that with like an uppercut or like a right cross pretty well. So his stand up's always been quite solid. His chin is granite. Got to go back to that Barboza fight, man. You know, Barboza, his kicks are some of the deadliest in the UFC. Wherever it hits, he's finished people with leg kicks, body kicks, and head kicks, all types. Ferguson took like flush head kicks from Barboza and just walked forward. So his chin is granite. His takedown defense is actually quite solid. His overall Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills, Ferguson's, are really good. He can take the back. He'll go for like a Kimura, for example. He scrambles well. So yeah, Ferguson at this point is pretty much a firmly entrenched top level lightweight, and that is a really hard thing to be, a top lightweight. It's pretty much like their deepest, if not UFC's deepest division. And with that said, I gotta go Tony Ferguson to win this one. It's just, I can't say that Vannata's the better striker. I can't say he's the better grappler. I mean, I outside of maybe point fighting, I don't know. Like, I think Ferguson has him beat in pretty much all areas of MMA. Experience too also goes to Ferguson. He's beaten some pretty top flight competition. Finished Barboza, beat Thompson, choked out T-Bow. So yeah, with that said, yeah, I'm gonna go with Tony Ferguson to win this one. I'll go by finish too, because he's actually quite a potent finisher. 16 of his 20 wins are by finish. So, you know what, Ferguson, KO or TKO. Like I said, it'll be by finish. I don't know which one. Maybe he knocks him down and gets a sub. I don't know. But yeah, I'll go Tony Ferguson, KO or TKO at this point. It's tough to say though. Okay, next fight after that, Tim the Barbarian Boetsch fights Jim Uncle Samman. Samman, 12-3 record, 7 wins by KO TKO, 4 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by submission. 28 years old. He's 6'3", training out of MMA Masters. He's actually a good offensive wrestler. Really strong ground and pound. He has a double punch ground and pound technique. His stand-up, though, is all kicks. I mean, it's just a real kick-heavy stand-up. He doesn't really punch very much. His takedown defense has, in the regional scene, I've seen it be really good. In the UFC, I've seen him pretty much taken down by like every opponent he's fought. So I can't really say that his takedown defense has shown itself to be that great. I don't know if he's just off balance from the kicks or whatnot. Because, he does have a wrestling background. So overall Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills aren't bad. He does have that rear naked choke submission over Kyle Megaless, which is actually pretty solid. Tim Boetsch, 18-10 record, 8 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub. Also has 4 losses by KO TKO and 3 losses by sub. 35 years old, and he's 5'11" on a 3-fight losing streak. I feel that Boetsch is best in the clinch. He has that redneck judo style takedowns. His clinch striking's always been pretty good, especially with his uppercuts. His overall wrestling's not too bad, both offensively and defensively. His stand-up, I'd say it's just average at this point. He has shown to be pretty heavy-handed. Got some come from behind KOs and whatnot. I gotta say though, his chin looks like it's greatly deteriorating. I mean, not. I mean, anyone's gonna fall for the H bomb, but then he just lost to Ed Herman at 205, and got knocked out there. His overall defense in Samman has never been that great. So, and he's just getting older too. And with that said, because Boetsch is getting older, he used to be a guy that can. He used to be the type of guy that can come back. I don't know if that guy's still there. I really don't. Josh Samman, not a perfect fighter by any means. Like I said, I'm not really fond of the fact that he's just like a kick-heavy stand-up type guy. He is a good wrestler. His takedown defense has been a bit iffy, but he's a younger fighter. He doesn't look like he's particularly deteriorated. He's bigger. He should be the bigger fighter here too. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Josh Samman to win this one. I'm actually gonna go by KO or TKO. I can actually see Samman get on top, get to takedown, and get on top at one point in the fight, and unleash some ground and pound, possibly, maybe even land a head kick. Wouldn't surprise me if Samman got a sub, but I'm gonna go by finish. So Josh Samman by KO or TKO. As far as that, Alexey, but the boa constrictor Oleinik fights Daniel Omielanczuk. Oleinik, 50-9 record with one draw, 60 fights. Wow. So anything above like 30s, like pretty high. 50s like crazy. Even like a lifelong MMA fighter. 5 wins by KO or TKO, 40 wins by sub, 4 losses by KO or TKO, and 2 losses by sub. Oleinik is 39. He's 6-1 on an 11-fight win streak. He last fought in November of 2014. I believe that's when he knocked out Jared Rosholt, actually. He has some strong Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills. He actually has a really good... what's funny with Oleinik is he actually uses the Ezekiel. And he can get it from multiple positions, too. That's a move primarily done with the gi. I use that move a lot, actually, in the gi. I have actually used it no gi to some success, but mainly against guys that just kind of, are like newbies and whatnot. Oleinik though is able to use this move no gi in MMA and tap dudes out. It's quite amazing to me, actually. His overall offensive takedown ability is pretty good. Pretty good. It's not great, but it's all right. His stand-up's just average. Daniel Omielanczuk, 18-5 record, 1 draw and 1 no contest. 3 wins by KO or TKO, 9 wins by sub. 33 years old. He's 6 foot on a 2-fight win streak. He's actually shown to be a pretty solid kickboxer as of late. Beat Danish Jarjo. Is that his name? Daro Jarjo. I think it's Jarjo. Danish Jarjo. His last fight knocked out Cristina Rocha. Before that, so solid kickboxer. Grappling's just average. I mean, he does obviously with 9 submission wins to his credit. I mean, he definitely has some submission ability and whatnot. But he's not a great offensive takedown threat. His defensive takedowns actually aren't too bad. I remember when he fought like Anthony Hamilton, he actually like, pretty good in the grappling department. He wasn't just like taken down all day. I think he actually managed to either reverse or get back to his feet when he got taken down too. Still lost that fight though. Nonetheless, I'm gonna go with Alexey Oleinik to win this one by submission. Should be an interesting fight because Oleinik, he's not a great. His stand-up's not particularly great, but he is good on the ground. I can see him eventually get the fight to the ground and get the sub. So Alexey Oleinik by submission. Next fight after that, Keitaro Nakamura fights Kyle KO Noke. Kyle Noke, 28-1 record with 1 draw, 8 wins by KO or TKO, 8 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by sub. 36 years old, he's 6'1", training out of Jackson Winklejohn. He does have some good stand-up. Pretty heavy-handed, too. I remember he dropped Cote. He has that front kick pretty much it's a front kick KO to the body. I mean, there's follow up ground and pound, but he's shown to be pretty heavy handed. His overall Brazilian Jiu Jitsu skills are good. You know, he can take the back and whatnot. Um, he's not too bad off his back either. However, his takedown defense is quite porous. He's a guy that I've seen just get taken down quite a bit throughout his like UFC career. Um, Nakamura, 31-7 record with 2 draws and 1 no contest, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 16 wins by sub. 32 years old, he's 5'11". He has some strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. Remember when he beat Li Jinglang? Dude, he just got beat up on the feet, managed to get this comeback submission. It was pretty awesome, actually, among other subs that he has. And he did pretty well against Tom Breeze, all things considered. I think he actually mounted Breeze at one point. Nakamura has some really, his offensive takedown ability is good. I like his clinch takedowns especially. His stand-up, though, is pretty weak. It's very rudimentary, and his defense standing isn't that good. So, makes for an interesting stylistic matchup because at the very least, I would imagine that Nakamura is probably the underdog here, and for good reason. He should be the smaller fighter, first of all. He's been through some wars and whatnot. The thing is, though, I can see Nakamura taking down Noke, and that can be quite problematic. It really just kind of depends if Noke can defend those takedowns or just keep range long enough. I think Noke should have the better stand-up here, and should be the harder hitter. Tough to say. That, like I said, I don't know if he can defend the takedowns that consistently and or get back to his feet when he's taken down that consistently. Nonetheless, I'm still going to go with Kyle Noke to win this by KO or TKO. I think like if Li Jinglang can beat Nakamura up on the feet, I think Kyle Noke can do the same and get the finish, So yeah, Kyle Noke by KO or TKO. Okay, on to the prelim card. Ben 10 Nguyen fights Luis the Last Samurai Smolka. Ben Nguyen, 14-5 record, 8 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by sub. He also has 4 losses by KO or TKO. 27 years old, he's 5-4 on an 8-fight win streak. His stand-up's actually pretty solid, and his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills are pretty good too. He actually won his last 2 fights on the ground. I forgot if they're I know one of them is by a choke. I forgot if both of them are by choke or if one of them was ground and pound. But yeah, Ben Nguyen's actually shown in the UFC to be pretty solid. He's actually one to he's a guy that's, because I saw some before he came to the UFC. I remember seeing some of his regional fights, and I was like, oh, yeah, this guy's all right, but I don't think he'd really last that long in the UFC, and he's quite thriving in the UFC actually. Luis the Last Samurai Smolka, 10-1 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub. 24 years old, he's 5'9" on a 3-fight win streak. Trains out of Hawaii Elite MMA. If I'm not mistaken, Max Holloway trains there, and Russell Doan, among others. A couple former UFC fighters train there as well. He has some strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. He went from just being an average prospect to a very good one, very quick, very suddenly. The turning point for me, because I remember he had that really hard time against that one, Ricky Vass. He had a really hard time against him, and I was like, okay, he won, he knocked him out with a cool kick, but he didn't look very good. And then he fought Neil Seary, and man, his ground skills looked amazing. And then when he was scheduled to fight Holohan, I was like, okay, Smolka's gonna win this. This guy's ground game has just improved leaps and bounds. So Smolka does have some strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. Strong in the scramble, really good back control, good at taking the back and keeping the back. His offensive takedown abilities are pretty good. His stand-up is still pretty average. There's a lot of guys that are like this, and I'd say Smolka's in this category too. He's not great. He's not a great boxer. Like he's just not good at boxing range. Like I noticed guys like Richie Vass, was able to beat him up quite a bit at boxing range, and then like Neil Seery was finding success in boxing range. So yeah, that's probably one of the weaker areas of Smolka's game. Very interesting fight, but at this point, I've been really impressed with Luis Smolka, especially his ground skills at this point in time. He looks like a pretty good prospect. I was kind of sour on him as a prospect, but ever since, I'm quite high on the guy. I don't know if he'll get the sub. Bending In's pretty good on the ground himself. But I think Nguyen can do some damage standing to Smolka as well. So it's a really interesting fight. I mean, this one could go either way. I went back and forth with this one, but ultimately I'm going to go with Luis Smolka to win this one. I don't know if I'll call a finish here. Yeah, what the heck? I'll call a finish here. Luis Smolka by sub. I think he can take the fight to the ground. If the fight does hit the ground, even if he's on the bottom, I can see him scrambling to the top too. So yeah, mainly with his, I see Smolka winning mainly with his grappling. So Luis Smolka by sub. Next right after that, Lauren Murphy fights Katlyn Chookagian. Lauren Murphy, 9-2 record, 7 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by decision. 32 years old, she's 5'8", and a former Invicta FC Women's Bantamweight champion. Her stand-up's improving. Her last fight actually showed some improved stand-up. I believe she's training at MMA Lab. I don't know if that's a consistent thing or not, but you definitely see some improvements in her game. Her wrestling's actually pretty solid, and her ground and pound's pretty good too. Katlyn Chookagian, 7-0 undefeated record, 2 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by sub, 27 years old, she's 5'9", it's her first fight in the UFC. So I watched her last fight actually, so it's in like HFC against this woman named Lynn something or another. She's just a pretty good standout, or at least she has like a kickboxing and is it Muay Thai background? I forgot, I read some stuff on her. I know she has some striking background though. Her stand-up's good. She actually showed a pretty good jab and good knees from the clinch. I didn't get to see too much of her ground game though, so I can't really speak about it. She went for a couple takedowns and they were thwarted, so not much I can say as far as her takedown ability or like her ground game goes. One thing I noticed about that fight, though, was that she got pressured quite easily, and she was backed up against a cage quite a bit. And against someone like Murphy's going to do that to her opponent. That's just something she does. Chookagian also generally fights at 125, so I believe she's moving up to 135. I gotta wonder if there's gonna have a size advantage, not in height, but just in physicality. There's a difference, Obviously, Chookagian's tall, she's 5'9". Doesn't mean she can't get like bullied around, or for example, and against someone like Murphy can do that. So with that said, I like Lauren Murphy here to be able to score points. First of all, back her up against cage, maybe get some takedowns if necessary. Get some ground and pound, and get the decision win. Lauren Murphy by decision. Next fight after that, Eric the Dreamcatcher Spicely fights Smiling Sam Alvey. Alvey, 26-8 record with 1 no contest, 17 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub, 30 years old, he's 6'2", training out of Team Quest. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, most recently losing to Elias Theodoro in a not-so-great fight. Alvey's game is counterpunching. He has a particularly strong left hook and real heavy hands. When he lets go, he can knock dudes out. His overall takedown defense actually isn't too bad. His grappling, I'd say, overall grappling is just average, though. You know, he can get out of bad spots. I've seen that. He's shown a good chin. The problem with Alvey is the guy is a slow starter and it's extremely low volume. He doesn't know how to cut the cage off. He's always pushing forward, but he just kind of sits there. And then he's just always waiting for his opponent to do something. It's a really humongous flaw in Alvey's game. And the reason why he lost his last... One of the major reasons why he lost his last fight. Eric Spicely, 8-0, undefeated record, 2 wins by KO TKO, 4 wins by sub, 6-1. It's his first fight in the UFC. He's on the Ultimate Fighter. Name of Spicely's game really is his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. It's like you even see this in the Ultimate Fighter. I actually watched a fight with Spicely's non the Ultimate Fighter. It's the same thing. He goes for he strikes his way to a takedown. It's usually a single leg takedown. He gets a takedown, looks to take it back, and get the choke. And that's really, from what I've seen, like his game. That's kind of his complete game at this point. Try and get that takedown, usually from a single, take the back, get a submission. It doesn't have to get choked per se, but or get the submission. So, yeah, with that said, this one's tough because both of these guys are quite flawed. I'd say Alvey's the better standing, while Spicely is probably the better grappler. The thing is, though, Alvey's problems don't tend to be because guys are taking him down. You know? He's not losing because he's getting taken down all the time. He loses in the stand-up a lot of times, guys who can move around and whatnot. Spicely's really not that guy unless he's really changed his game. Wouldn't surprise me, you know. There's a clear way to beat Sam Alvey, and a lot of fighters have done it. I haven't seen from Spicely's skill set to be able to use the movement necessary, you know, just range strike, you know, and whatnot. So, yeah, I'm going to go Smiling Sam Alvey to win this one by KO or TKO. I think he can defend the takedowns and get that opportunistic punch, I guess, or shot on Spicely that would put him down. So, yeah, Sam Alvey by KO or TKO. Next fight after that, Cortney Cast Iron Casey fights Cristina Barbie Stanciu. Is it? No, it's not Chewy. It's I'll say Stanciu. You know what? Stanciu. Courtney Casey, 4-3 record, 2 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub. 29 years old. She's 5-2 on a 2-fight losing streak. She is a finisher. Everything about her is pretty average. You know. I remember watching her fight against Joanne Calderwood. She was actually doing quite well against Calderwood. She actually boxed her up quite a bit. And her overall grappling game isn't bad. She does have some offensive takedown ability. She fought her last fight. Who'd she fight? Was it Hamderley Silva? I forgot if it's Sealy Hum. I think it was Sealy Hum, yeah. You know, she was able to strike with her and like grapple her quite a bit. Eventually lost that fight though. Cristina Stanciu, 5-1 record, 1 win by TKO, 3 wins by sub. 22 years old, she's 5'4". She is hyper aggressive. Her stand-up's pretty reckless. Her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills pretty average. I mean, she'll go for things, but she is one of those people that'll lose position on the ground, and her cardio is quite questionable. Here's the thing with this fight. Okay. Casey's the more like better technically in every aspect of the game, whereas Stanciu is very much your super raw prospect that just kind of goes for things. I'll just like recklessly charge in and strike, recklessly try and get a takedown, you know, go for a guillotine and burn out her arms like she did against Moroz. But one thing about Stanciu is that, geez, this one's actually really hard for me to call. I was actually, geez, Not gonna lie now, this is hard for me to call because Stanciu's pretty reckless, but I would say she's probably the harder hitter. Um, and she's probably the one that can get a more opportunistic, like strike and or sub on Casey. I think. Stanciu, though, the problem is her cardio is really questionable, and she loses positions on the ground. I mean, she is your definition of a raw fighter. She could be something later on. She's only 22 years old. Um, Pretty athletic, you know. Casey, though, oh wow, yeesh, this is hard for me to call now. Just a more better all-around technical fighter who's also quite flawed. Cardio wise, she's actually been, she's actually shown to gas, like, or fade quite a bit, too. Oh, man. I was originally going to pick Cristina Stanciu here. This was actually one that's hard to pick because they're both flawed, lower level fighters that are still finding their games. I think I'll stick with my original pick. Both of them are flawed enough that they can expose something. Um, it's kind of a coin flip for me, though. You know what? I'll go Cristina Stanciu to win this one. I'll go by sub. I don't. Once again, I'm kind of putting my hands up now with that fight because, like, now that I think about it, it's like she's not the more technical fighter, but Casey is also quite flawed in her own right. Her defense isn't the greatest, tends to fade as well. Sometimes she'll just have no volume. At least with Stanciu, she has the aggression to go. Uh, Athleticism with aggression and youth. So, yeah, I guess I'll go Cristina Stanciu. Um, you know what? I'll go safe here. I'm not going to call a finish. I'll go by decision. What the heck? Cristina Stanciu by decision. Okay, on to Fight Pass prelims. Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman fights Cody the Fist Pfister. Pfister, 12-5 records with one draw, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. What am I talking about? Has 4 losses by submission. 25 years old. He's 5'10". He's trading losses and wins. Most recently lost to Sage Northcott. His wrestling's actually pretty good. You know, his ground and pound's not too bad. Overall grappling, not too bad. Stand up is decent at best. I mean, really, he doesn't have too much in the stand-up department. He's mainly just goes for a lot of takedowns and whatnot. Holtzman, 8-1 record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. 32 years old, he's 5'9", training out of MMA Lab. Holtzman's a good wrestler in his own right. He's got a good clinch. One thing I was pretty happy in his last fight, he lost to Dober, but a lot of fights I've seen from Holtzman, he just strikes to clinch against the cage on his opponent. And just kind of works from there. He couldn't do that against Dober, and so he had to kind of go, really work on his stand-up, work on more takedowns in the center of the cage and whatnot. So, and I thought he did relatively well, all things considered, even though he lost. So, you can actually see some improvement there. With that said, I like Holtzman here. He's a good wrestler in his own right. I think he's probably better standing than Pfister, so I'll go Scott Holtzman by decision. Next fight after that, Matthew Lopez fights Rani Yahya. Lopez, 8-0, undefeated record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 4 wins by sub. 29 years old, it's his first fight in the UFC. I saw his fight of his. Super aggressive guy. I mean, just hyper aggressive to the point where his defense kind of sucks. His wrestling's really good. His ground and pound is really good, too. He has good front chokes. But like I said, his stand-up defense, I mean, he is reckless with the stand-up. But, so, I've seen him get tagged. So, stand-up defense isn't very good. Rani Yahya, 21-8 record with 1 no contest. 16 wins by sub. 5 wins by decision. Has 2 losses by KO or TKO. 31 years old. He's 5'6" on a 2-fight win streak. Last fought in July of 2015. He's a BJJ black belt. Really good back control. His offensive takedowns are good. It's not that he's a great wrestler. He's just relentless about getting takedowns. He'll get his opponent against a cage, for example, and just relentlessly go for takedowns until he gets top control. And he can pass guard really well and like, take the back really well. However, his cardio is not very good. He really fades, especially in the third round. And his stand-up is not very good at all. Um, Yahya's got a lot more experience and a lot more experience against higher level opposition. But I don't know if he can consistently take Lopez down, for one thing. And Lopez, despite not having the best defense, is aggressive enough that he might be able to catch Yahya. The problem with Yahya, though, is he's a great neutralizer, too. So, Yahya has more experience and can be just the better neutralizer. But I like Lopez here. He's a really good wrestler, so I can see him defend takedowns. He might even get his own offensive takedown and just get back to his feet. Never know. And then he's hyper aggressive in the stand up, so I can see him possibly overwhelming Rani Yahya as well. So yeah, I'm gonna go Matt Lopez to win this one by KO or TKO. And finally, Devin Clark fights Alex the Spartan Nicholson. Okay, Devin Clark, 6-0, undefeated record, 3 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. He's 6 foot, and it's his first fight in the UFC. I believe they're both fighting at 185. I believe it's both these guys' first cut to 185, if I'm not mistaken. Clark's got a good, solid, fundamental game. His wrestling's not bad. I saw some of his fights. He has good ground and pound. His boxing's pretty decent. His stand-up defense is probably a thing that needs a lot of work, but everything else is, at the very least, average to very good. Well, actually, just average to good. Alex the Spartan Nicholson, 6-2 record, 5 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. He's 26 years old, and he's 6'4". His first cut to 185. He is a finisher. One thing about Nicholson, though, this guy is raw. I mean, it's like Cristina Stanciu, where this guy just will just recklessly go, strike with his opponent. He has some pretty heavy hands. His takedown defense kind of suffers for it because he's so reckless. I mean, this guy, remember when he fought the really good Misha Serkinov, he got his jaw broken. That's something I'm pretty concerned about too, by the way. I don't think that's the first time that's happened to this guy, getting his jaw broken. But anyways, he went for a spinning back fist and kept getting taken down because of it. So his takedown defense kind of suffers because he's so reckless standing and gets off balance. Nixon's probably going to be the bigger guy here. Both are pretty good athletes. With that said, though, I like Devin Clark here. I'll go with him to win by KO or TKO, mainly by ground and pound. He just has a better fundamental game. And while he could get caught by Nicholson, who can throw some pretty wild strikes, I say Devin Clark doing well enough to stand up, getting those, getting a takedown, getting some ground and pound going, and I'll go with Devin Clark by KO or TKO. Okay, to recap on the main event, I have John Lineker over Michael McDonald by decision. Tony Ferguson beating Landon Vannata by KO or TKO. Josh Samman over Tim Boetsch by, did I say sub? I forgot. It was a finish, and I totally forgot what it was. Darn it. It was by finish, and gosh, man. I do the finishes, on the fly. So, I know it's by a finish. I just forgot by which finish. I think it was by KO or TKO. I'm not too sure. Alexey Oleinik beating Daniel Omielanczuk by submission. And Kyle Noke over Keita Nakamura by KO or TKO. Okay, on the prelims, I have Luis Smolka beating Ben Nguyen. Did I say by sub? Yeah, I think I called sub or decision. I once kind of forgot. Lauren Murphy beating Katlyn Chookagian by decision. Sam Alvey over Eric Spicy by KO TKO. Cristina Stanciu over Courtney Casey by what I called like sub, I think. I th- was it sub? No, I think overall I said like decision at the very end of it all. And on the Fight Fast prelims, Scott Holtzman over Cody Pfister by decision. Matthew Lopez over Rani Yahya by KO or TKO. And Devin Clark over Alex Nicholson by KO or TKO. So that's pretty much it for my predictions for UFC Fight Night 91. McDonald versus Lineker. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And please check out my author's website at www.chrismaldon.com. Buy one of my stories too. You can buy The Mustard Prince and the Condiment Kingdom for $4.99 on Amazon or on my website, or buy one of my short stories or short story collections for $1.99 on my website or on Amazon.com for $1.99. So yeah, that's pretty much it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.